good morning. What a gorgeous start to our second day here at Norton Disney in Lincolnshire. And there's already activity in the test pits. Hi guys.
Yesterday we opened our first trench in the paddock and found a beautiful fleur-de-lis featured in the Disney coat of arms, and also a dozen test pits in front and back gardens throughout the village, which turned up our first sherds of medieval pottery.
But I'm off to our main trench to see what's happening there.
Day 2 in Norton Disney, and Trench 1 continues to go laboriously down. The big decision this morning is where to put Trench 2. And a site has been chosen in the paddock around 40 metres to the south of Trench 1, alongside Julia's horses.
Are you happy now?
He did say that, didn't he?
Pretend I'm a bucket.
Well, we're thinking it at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you good with that? Right. Let's mark out Trench 2 then.
A long narrow trench here will cross an intriguing anomaly in Jon's geophys, and also an earthwork feature that Stewart would like to investigate.
John,
Morning,
you shut the machine
chaps.
down.
Morning.
How are you? Have you found my moated medieval manor house yet?
We're getting there, we're getting there.
But a second trench. And why here as well?
Well, we've gone partly with the geophysics, but mainly with Stewart's earthworks. So what we're doing, we're putting the trench along this line. We think we've got a small curving ditch in Trench 1 that comes all the way round and will come through this trench at this point here. There's also the question of whether Stewart's got a bigger ditch underneath this bank, and so the trench is going to answer two questions.
But the critical question, where's my manor house?
Your manor house is definitely going to be within this smaller ring.
I see. So that's over here.
There.
Yes. So we should begin to get a bit of clarity, both about what was here, but also from some of the finds.
I think
when?
so. It's looking good at the moment. Good at the moment.
So we've got a bit of a distance to go with the machine to take it back. And once that's all cleared up, then we can really start getting into these features and hopefully get you some phasing.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, that's really hopeful.
Yeah, we'll hopefully be well within the sort of later medieval in this area.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Hear the word medieval.
I've learnt from the expert.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Meanwhile, yesterday's test pits are back up and running, with volunteers digging deeper and deeper. But Carenza wants more. She specifically wants to target Julia's garden, where she suspects they will find any remains of the medieval manor house within the smallest of the enclosures identified by Stewart. But more test pits means more diggers, and once again the village hall is a flurry of activity.
It's chaos, Penny. How are you doing?
You've got your clipboard, you're looking very efficient.
Clipboard, we've got the new test bits marked on there, and we're just getting everyone to come forward, pick up their lanyards, register, and then we'll talk and off they go.
While the entire team is busy across the length and the breadth of the village, Henry continues his mission to core along the length of the suspected moat over in the field. Meanwhile, Stewart is up in the village looking for the other end of the same feature.
I'm currently wandering down the road to the church, and this seems to be the former edge of the manorial complex on the eastern side. I mean, now it's got modern houses built all over it, but the boundary at the front and the rise in the earthwork there at the side, this is all where the original boundary of the manorial complex will be. And I think, in fact, if I step back, you can see the site of the modern manor house just in the gap over there. You can see how far away, so we get an idea of how big the complex is from this perspective. But originally it probably had a wall around the edge of it. So carrying on my journey down towards the church. Further down, I've just been looking at some of the stones here in a rockery, and this looks rather interesting down here. What I've actually got, it looks like the top of a column or a pillar, the sort of thing. It's called a capital. It's used at the top or the bottom of a column, and there's a broken bit just sitting in the rockery here.
Stewart's not the only member of the team on Church Drive. Lawrence, Harry and Bear head to the church to survey.
Right, chaps, here we are. It's fantastic, isn't it?
It's a lovely building, isn't it? So what we want to do, we've got a two-pronged attack. Harry, I was hoping you might be able to do a 3D survey of the church.
Yep.
And the exterior.
Yeah, all the way around the outside, roof,
Yeah.
walls, and those gargoyles.
That would be amazing. Do you think you can get some detail on the
Yeah, we
gargoyles?
can take it from below, horizontal, and then above as well. So then give those images to Bear and work his magic.
Okay, fantastic. And then Bear, there's some amazing stuff in there, the tombs and some detailed features. It would be great if we could get some photogrammetry of those as well.
Ready to go.
While Bear and Harry record the fabric of the building, Lawrence finds out more about the tombs.
We have a number of members of the 14th century Disney family of Norton Disney.
Wow, fantastic.
In particular, this magnificent fellow, who is one of the many William Disneys of the period.
Okay.
You probably can see we've got an awful lot to look at in the stonework here, because what we actually have during this period of the 14th century is, as you can see here, a lot of heraldry. And what is really jumping out to you about when you come to this particular
I love this big shield with the lions.
Absolutely, and you can see it's scattered around. You'll see those three lions appearing all over these different tombs, including this lady here who's actually called Hortensia. So she is both the daughter of a William Disney and the sister of a William Disney. We have an awful lot of Williams in this part of the family tree, and we can pick up the shields down this side from her paternal line. But of course, on the other side of her tomb, we can also see some of those shield designs from her maternal side. So we're able to piece together both the maternal and paternal lines of the Disney family tree that way. I think we can see why when Walt Disney came here to explore in 1949, this was one of the things that drew his eye. I think as someone with a really artistic sense of the world, he came in and his eye alighted on this.
So those lines and that image is so important even today for that Disney brand. Can we tie this to Walt? I mean, he obviously was taken by it, but is there a direct link that we can draw to Walt from this?
Oh, that is a really, really interesting question, Lauren. So as it happens, if we explore Walt's own Disney line, we can confidently take that back to Ireland, back to counties Carlow and Kilkenny. And once we get to that point, at the moment, the trail sort of goes cold. It may well be that ultimately he is connected to these Norton Disneys, or possibly there could be another story. So you may be aware, originally, the Disney name is actually effectively a contraction of Dissigny. So there's a place called Isigny in France, and it's believed that one or more individuals came over from Isigny to the British Isles, and they become known as the de Isigny's, the person from Isigny. And over time, that gets changed into Disney in its recognisable form now. So I think there are a lot of really interesting unanswered questions about maybe where Walt might fit into this picture. But for me, what's undeniable is that iconography that Walt came in here and connected with. He actually took inspiration from this. If you look at some elements of Sleeping Beauty's castle, these lions actually appear there as well. So it certainly had an undeniable influence on Walt from an artistic perspective.
And Disney descendants Jane and Simon joined their cousin Sarah on a road trip looking for more Disneys in the wider landscape. They're driving 40 miles across Lincolnshire to Kingerby, another manor once lorded over by the Disneys.
A feel of oldness.
It's, yeah.
That tower looks like...
And there are more family tombs inside the historic church.
Right, let's see if it's open. It just be my luck coming all the way from Australia, and the thing is, I can't get in.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. There's obviously a neck.
Yeah, there obviously is.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Back on site, work is well underway in Julia's garden.
So we've got 4 test pits opened up here, which is in the garden of Manor House. And we've got another one over in the corner there, and that's really close, of course, to the trenches that we've got in the paddocks around Manor House. I have this feeling that you can see it's a bit of a raised platform. You can see beyond where 21 is there, the ground drops away a bit, and this square garden feels like it might be where some of the manorial centre of activity might have been. And then in this corner, we've got the 4th test pit in the garden, and both this test pit and the other one there have been sited to line up with the edge of the existing manor house building, kind of under the theory that if there's a range of buildings or an enclosure wall going straight line, we might hit that here, and the ground level's a bit more raised here. And in fact, we've actually got some stone coming up in here, haven't we, Matt?
We have. We've found a couple of bigger pieces of stone in our first 10 centimetres, which is quite exciting. We managed to find, if you look behind you in the finds tray, there is a bit of limestone with a fossil in it, and what looks to be a couple of pieces of glazed pottery, maybe.
So yeah, the pottery, I think that's Victorian, so it's nice to know you're picking up small detail. Hi there, how are you getting on?
Doing all right, actually. We found a few bits in the tray here that's been it's been washed and cleaned.
Excellent. It's so much easier to see what's going on when they've been washed. So you've got some sort of 19th century pottery coming up, which is sort of what we'd expect. That's a bit of roof tile there. You can see it's been mortared in. That's a really nice bit of roof tile. It's definitely handmade, and you can see it's early because it's not oxidised all the way through. It's got that dark band in the middle. So that could easily be medieval. Certainly it's 16th, 17th century at the latest. So looks like we're getting building remains again, and probably medieval stuff as well. And the priority is to get further down and see if we can get earlier deposits as we get further down.
Definitely, yeah.
Brilliant.
Trench 2 is descending rapidly through dark soil and is already producing what Richard suspects is demolition rubble.
See, that's much more what we were getting over there, but it's a big piece.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But one find might offer a tantalising date.
Oh, jug handle. No, it is.
There you go. Nice.
That's nice.
That's good, isn't it?
It's all part of the
And that's
same
going to fit.
vessel, isn't it?
Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, perfect.
That's just come on from where we are now. That's the level we want to be at. I think that's right at the top of your anomaly,
Well,
isn't it?
and it's just where the ridge is starting to come up.
Great.
So this is the area that things might start to happen.
Medieval, I reckon.
Oh, now you put your marker down. I would just stay with pot. It's safe.
Medieval written all over it.
Meanwhile, Chris and Hilda are beginning to make sense of what's going on in Trench 1.
Chris? Well, I know it's been a while since we've seen you, but yeah, what's happened?
Well, I've gone looking for this big linear anomaly that John predicted would be here, and it has turned out to be a fairly deep ditch.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you were on the money for once.
I mean, that's really good, but have we got anything to say what sort of date it is?
Well, yes. We have this piece of pot, Matt.
Oh!
From a small jug.
What sort of period is that?
It's probably 13th century.
13th. Oh!
Absolutely.
Well done. Congratulations. This sherd is the earliest find so far and takes the story back to the early Disney period.
And back. Okay. Foot on it, push it under. And then lift it. Okay, that's it, lift it. It is heavy. Well, lift it, lift it. Good girl.
The test pits in Julia's garden are quickly throwing up a lot of pottery, some of it early.
Jane looked at the pottery. She said some of it, like this, with the brown glaze, is 16th century.
Wow.
But then we've got medieval tiles, so it's quite a mixture of things now.
All right, just dig in. That's what I think, actually.
Yeah.
Those could be part of the same pot.
Yeah, quite.
We've had from the beginning. We've had a few. We've had quite a bit of pottery and a lot of building stuff, and we found a medieval roof tile on our first layer, so we were very happy.
And the search is extending to the other side of the hedge in Julia's garden.
So we've just walked into the paddock behind the manor house, and I've seen that there's another test pit open, which wasn't here when I last came round. Beautiful little carved bit of glass.
It is. There must be some glass working or something. That's yeah.
Does it look a bit more structured than it?
No.
Does it just look
Well, that looks like waste because there's a little bubble there, and it's going into nothing. So it's glass production.
Yeah, and it's green, so it's probably window glass. So it wouldn't be decorative.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. 'Cause
How
we've got some
interesting.
nice chunky stone here.
Yeah.
We've got some probably roof tiles
Mhm.
or broken bricks here. We found a few of these, and because they're quite flat, we think roof tile.
Yeah.
And then, just as we were recording the first layer, or the first context, we've oh, there you go. Yeah.
All right.
That's charcoal.
Oh, it is
isn't
charcoal. Yep, exactly. Nice. Well, we'll keep that. We don't always keep charcoal. Sometimes if we just do a sample, it will come up when we wet sieve. So we'll keep this because it's quite big, and then the fines processing team will decide whether we want to keep it in the end. But we'll definitely pop that in the fines tray. That's really nice.
Excellent.
And so you're on to your second context now?
We are. We're just finishing recording the first context.
Yeah. Ah, this is really cool.
We're excited about this.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to find such cool stuff so close to the surface.
Only 6 feet to go.
All of the demolition material coming out of the trenches and the test pits surrounding Julia's house suggests that Carenza's hunch could be right, and the older manor house is lost under the newer building. But could some of that earlier building material have been recycled? I joined the buildings historian James Wright to have a closer look.
I'm suffering a bit of real estate envy, and this is such a gorgeous house. It's not our medieval moated manor house, but are there any sort of architectural clues as to something earlier?
Looking at this, looking at the fabric, having a look at the bricks, the stonework, the windows, the plan of the thing, this looks to be something quite a bit later, well into the post-medieval period, late 17th, 18th century, something like that. There's also potentially some earlier stuff lurking within there. And then we'll have a look. If you look up in the gable there, can you see just below the chimney, there's a little square stone that's slightly lighter in colour, and it's got some lettering on it. It's got WD, and underneath it says 1625.
The building looks sort of Georgian or something.
Yeah, so that's a date stone, which is, what, a century, 100 years older than the building. And it's a piece of portable material. They've obviously liked it. It's reasonably significant to them, so they've kept it from another structure.
So what is that? What are we looking at here?
So it's actually a piece of drain. If you imagine this high up in a structure, this is where you've got water flowing down there.
So it would have been flipped?
Yeah, it's flipped 90 degrees, and then there's a lead pipe coming out of this circular aperture, and it's throwing water off, but it's from high up in a big stone building. We're talking something like a manor house, church, something really monumental, something really significant, something really important.
Because the idea of supporting something of this scale, obviously if it's up high, it's going to need to be supported.
Yeah.
And it gives a sense of really quite sophisticated engineering. So a significant building of some level of prestige.
Yeah, and it's built of stone as well. So it's stone all the way up. As you say, there's been a lot of money thrown at this structure. So if we come in through here, pull the door to, this is the dining room. And in the dining room of the house, which is, as we know, 18th century, something like that, this panelling isn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this panelling's from an older building.
How fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, so you see how it's quite small?
Yes.
it's not one of those big panels. It's square, but it's slightly elongated.
Yes.
And it's got mouldings running here and here, but there isn't a moulding there, this dust ledge. All of this really does shout something of the period of William Shakespeare.
Oh, really?
So the second half of the 16th, first half of the 17th century. So roughly contemporary with that date stone we've seen outside.
How fascinating.
There's other clues here as well, in that the panelling doesn't quite fit with the room.
Yes.
So it's got certain elements that have been inserted to space it out a little bit. And then these burn marks up at the top here.
Oh, there's a candle.
Yeah, well, it used to be thought that these were unattended candles, but these are actually marks to drive away witches, demons, evil spirits, the things that go bump in the night.
Oh, wow.
And this is the sort of thing we would expect to find in the late medieval, early modern period. But by the time of the construction of this house, science and reason have come in, and they start to disappear. So again, this is evidence of this being from that earlier age.
How wonderful, how glorious. Join a thriving worldwide community of Time Team fans on Patreon.
Our new target is to reach 15,000 worldwide supporters on Patreon by the end of 2025. This will enable us to continue expanding the Time Team world with more digs and greater access than ever before.
With the sun out on a Saturday afternoon, there's a real buzz about the village.
Walking along this high street, you really get a sense of the community here. We've just come from a test pit over there. We've got test pits here and in the back garden over there. We're just about to come up to another test pit here. And it's such a nice atmosphere. We're walking past people, waving, saying hello, catching up. It's so lovely for the community. And not only do these test pits tell us about the density of occupation in this area, but it also feeds into our national understanding of what is happening at this time.
Test Pit 15, one of today's new test pits, across the road from the manor house site, has come down straight onto fragments of roof tile and window glass.
It's interesting because it looks like we've got a demolition layer here. So anything that's below that demolition layer will be earlier than demolition. So we know we've got the 1625 house, so it's probable this is the demolition from that, because obviously the one that replaced it is still standing. So this is either demolition of the 1625 house or the earlier one. And so we really need to know what stuff underneath. So the stuff underneath it is going to be 16th century or earlier at the latest.
Cool. And finds from the other test pits are taking us back into the early Disney period.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Jane.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, well, this is looking exciting. There's a lot of things here, aren't there?
It is. It's a really busy trench. This tray here, it's mostly early modern, but the earliest stuff's 18th century. And when we get into this tray, this is really quite exciting. It has these Staffordshire type slipwares, beautiful vessels with decoration on them, rather like the top of a Bakewell tart. But this is the prize. This is a sherd of German stoneware, probably Frecken type, from a small drinking jug that would belong to the second half of the 16th or probably the first half of the 17th century. So it's exciting because it might have had a face on the top, but beautiful decoration on it. Better mine is the style that they have this face with a beard on it. And this lovely little sherd here, which would be probably from a small jug of late 12th or 13th century date. So,
sorry, 12th, 13th?
Late 12th or 13th, yes.
Whoa. Okay, hang on a minute. So we've jumped from the 1550s back to the 1180s onwards.
To the end of the 1200s.
So we're back at the time when the Disneys were here.
Yes.
This is what we've been looking for.
It's a good start, a good show that we're going lower down now. We're getting through the topsoil into the lower deposits, and we've had that glimmer there. So we're going to really hope that we're going to come down. We're going to find some more of that.
And Test Pit 10, behind the pub, pushes our timeline even further back.
Amy.
Oh, hi.
Hey. Tim.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you.
Hiya.
How's it going?
Yeah. It's great, yeah. It's exciting stuff coming out of the test pit.
or exciting to us all anyway.
Because I heard there was something particularly special,
Well,
not just exciting.
We have found this little piece here, which you believe is a bit of Viking pottery. It's found by Amy here.
Wow.
So close to the surface as well. In the first context, we were quite surprised when it came out because we think we've been told it's the oldest piece so far we've found in the whole of the village.
So do we know what this is?
Well, we've been told by the specialists because we're not sure ourselves, but we've been told it's mid-10th to 11th century Torksey ware, so it's known to be sort of Viking pottery.
So this predates the medieval, the manor that we've been actually kind of trying to look for.
It's earlier than we were expecting anything to come out of the test pit.
Before any of the known history for the village we found, because the recordings only really start with the Disney family coming in with a known record. So
Yes.
to find something from beforehand, we know nothing about the people that could have been using this ware.
Yes. So it's interesting, just as we begin to get some real answers, this site, it throws up a few more additional questions.
Even Stewart is getting in on the test pit action.
This is where the wall would be around the edge of the manorial complex, and obviously the modern houses have been built over that.
Can I interrupt you just for a moment?
I'm being interrupted for a moment, yes.
We're just in test pit 3 and we found what could be quite an interesting little sample of what looks like cobbled surfaces. Would you come and have a look?
I think we should go and take a look, don't you? Yeah. What's of you?
Just in the very corner of the test pit, there's what appears to be quite a distinct grouped line of stones.
I gather you've got something interesting you'd like to show me.
Yeah, we show that as well, if you don't mind. We've got the edge running down here.
Yeah.
And we've also believed it's a bit of an animal bone that's resting on top.
Well, I'm definitely not. I'm not a bone man, so I can't tell you much about the bone. But I get more excited by the cobbles here. I mean, I suspect that's animal bone lying on the top of the cobbles, but these cobbles, this is definitely a deliberately laid surface, isn't it?
Yes.
You wouldn't believe how relevant this is. I was just walking down here, looking at elements of the manorial complex and its boundaries, and what I was looking at on the other side of your hedge not long ago is a feature that I was wanting to see where it ended up, and just bizarrely the two have come together when I'm walking down the lane. This is magic, because on the other side of the hedge is a causeway which is heading into this garden from the manor area, heading straight to the church. So this...
Could that be the causeway?
You said it. I would say, could it be the causeway? I'd say, given its alignment, what I've been looking at on the other side, I'd say very, very likely.
If he's right, then this causeway would once have run from the lost manor house across the suspected moat or ditch to the church. The discovery of this causeway is further confirmation that the long-lost manor complex must have been somewhere in proximity to Julia's house. 40 miles away, our Disney descendants are making sense of their ancestors in the sister church in Kingerby.
No, when did the Disney tallness come into it?
Well, I think because his legs aren't there.
Oh.
If somebody without legs.
My goodness me, he looks a bit like a Crusader knight, doesn't he?
Yes, yes.
So I think this is William.
So you think that's William?
I think that's William. He might be our 17th great-grandfather.
Right.
But I'm not 100%.
But Kingerby is the lost twin of the Disney story, because everybody focuses on Walt Disney because of the Disney in the name of the village. But the Disneys were here for a very, very long time because it's a key part of their estate. Their focus was here for a couple of 100 years at least.
So what have you found that's really sort of hit home for you? What's your experience been of kind of connecting with this ancestral space in the church here?
It's a couple of things, really. It's actually looking at these effigies. They've been there for all this time, for 700 odd years. But now this brings them more to life because you see the visual representation of them in there. So then you can then remember more about them when you do research them and perhaps understand. They become more tangible, they become more real, and they become more human.
We're not after the names and dates and places alone, are we? Yes, that's the skeleton that we hang things off.
Yeah.
But I think what we're really looking to do is flesh out that into a family history that feels so real, so three-dimensional, you could almost reach out and touch it.
The story has changed for us as well. What we were told as children by our parents, our grandparents, what they were told has changed because of what we have learned. So that we've got, I've almost got more questions now to dive down into that endless rabbit hole, so that when I return home, it's given me a lot of food for thought.
It's been one of the best afternoons of my life.
Oh,
I'm
this
so
is amazing,
moved by the statue in there. I'm just blown away by it. It's just been the most extraordinary experience.
Do we need a Disney family hug at this point, I think?
We are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So glad to have been part of this with you. Oh, fantastic.
And in the fields behind Kingerby Church, there is one last surprise for the family.
In the Lincolnshire archives, there is this property deed type document from the period, 1386. And in it, we have the very first reference to Disneyland. There is definitely Disneyland, and you have claim to it full stop.
Back in Norton Disney, Trench 2 has drawn a blank on John's ditch-like feature.
You remember when we were last here, you saw that nice piece of pottery, the three sherds are joined together. Well, we've moved the trench back a bit, and I'd like a bit of advice, really, because you can see the depth I've left it at with the machine, and there's bits of pottery, well, bits of tile and animal bone, so we're not at the natural level. I was not sure about where the natural was, so I've sunk a sondage with the machine to where I think the natural is. And that's deep, and I'm not seeing any cut archaeological features at all.
And that's really interesting in the fact that there isn't a big ditch here.
Yeah.
By the look of it, you're down onto natural.
Yeah.
And what we've got, all the evidence we've got is up here, so...
So we're not going to go any further that way, but I'd like to enlarge it a little bit here to widen the trench out and concentrate on features that I do think we have.
So you wouldn't believe the fact the geophysics said there's no ditch. He wanted the ground truth.
There is stuff up here, and I'd quite like to extend the trench and open it up a bit more and see if the ditch that we've got in trench 1 that we think continues here, I'd like to kind of just confirm that.
Yeah, we've got to.
Yeah.
I think the ditch is more here, to be honest.
Okay, so...
Well, if you can cover the John's ditch and cover this ridge, this platform area here, then we get a sample of both.
Okay, so that's a fair amount of work to do, but it's achievable. Okay, I'm happy we do that.
So Trench 2 is to be widened, in the hope that it will prove continuity with the ditch in Trench 1. Over on Main Street, Carenza and the building's historian James Wright are looking through the finds trays of Test Pit 15.
So what is intriguing me is the fact that we seem to be getting this high status stuff this side of the road. So we've got this bit of glass, which is beautiful, and I was a bit worried it might be Roman at one point because it has that bluey green colour to it.
Yeah.
But Helen looked at that and said she thought it might be window glass, and there's been a bit of lead came from here, so that feels sort of high status.
And again, structural. Looking at windows in that period, that's fairly unusual, really. You know, most people have just got shuttering
and
or screens.
another bit of what looks like sort of medieval window glass. That's not coloured.
Yeah.
And then there's this little buckle here. And that could be medieval to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that as well because I was. Do you know the museum at Bosworth Battlefield?
Yes. Yeah.
And this looks exactly like some of those buckles that turned up on that side. And of course, they're in a reasonably securely dated context because the battle happened in 1485. They're almost
could be the same. Yeah,
it could be from the same manufacturer almost, you know, but from the same period, the same design with these kind of double D shapes there with the straight bar between, and you know, this is exactly what you might be expecting sort of around 1500.
There's a feeling that there's some sort of slightly higher status than average going on here. Do you think?
Yeah, particularly with the the window glass. This isn't
that bit of lead cane that goes with it.
This isn't common. This is manor houses and churches and the like. It's not your average house at all. So we're looking at something slightly special, slightly posh.
It's all getting a bit intriguing, isn't it?
It's all right over here. It's all right being a Disney.
As the day draws to a close, progress is made in Trench 2.
Right, let's see. Oh.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah, look at that. Nice.
Yeah.
Coming around nice and straight. Good. Well, that's a good result.
It certainly is.
Right, well, let's get greedy and see if it keeps going here as well. That's worth doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
That's great. Can you see that? Look. Got the orange here, which I think is coming to the natural.
Yeah, I can see that going through.
It's coming up here. And still going over here. And there's a much darker soil, isn't there?
Yeah,
coming
definitely.
all the way along
really
there.
Clear along there.
So I think...
This side is coming along this way, isn't it?
So we have got it.
Through here.
It's still here, isn't it?
Yeah, all the way down through there.
So it's still all the way along here. And we've got the other side here, haven't we?
Yes.
So it's quite a narrow ditch.
Not huge, no.
But it's a feature anyway. It's definitely worth
Definitely a feature.
exploring.
Back in Trench 1, Hilda has made a hair-raising discovery.
Hey Hilda, how are you doing? I hear you've got something interesting. Yeah, so I'm just clearing out some of this rubble where we've had a lot of kind of 17th, maybe slightly earlier pipe heads and a lot of brick and stone, but just come across this comb, which is pretty amazing. That's brilliant, isn't it? I think it's made of bone, but it'd be great for you to have a look at it.
Oh, look at that. Do you want to pop it into just in case it's fragile?
Oh wow, look at this. That's great, isn't it? So it's obviously bone, and we can see that it's fragmented, so this probably would have been at least a little bit longer. And you can see the tooth sizes here are different on one side, so we've got a double comb. On this side they're quite larger, on this side they're teeny, tiny, very likely to have been used as a knit comb. So the tiny teeth will hopefully drag out the nits or lice.
A bunch of smokers with nits in this trench.
We're not painting an amazing picture, are we?
So from the shape, would you be able to tell how old it is?
Well, given that we're finding a lot of 17th century stuff here, I'd be happy with that date.
Maybe slightly earlier, but the pipe heads seems to suggest around that time. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
It's my first ever bone comb.
Oh,
I'm very excited.
Oh, brilliant.
Meanwhile, Stewart joins Henry over the hedge to find out if it's truly a moat.
Well, I finally made it, yeah. Out here on your own, eh? How are you getting on?
You know what? We've got some great results. Really good.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I don't often say that. Well, I thought rather than just look at the moats themselves, I look at the whole field. So I've been taking cores every 10 metres from here all the way up to the end of the field and then along the field boundary. So effectively trying to cross both the southern moat and the eastern moat as well. So I've sort of covered the site in 2 transects.
Okay.
But what I found is basically I've gone across a river channel down here, which is the bottom, and the floodplain, then cut the moat here, gone into the interior, then gone across that second side, the eastern side of the moat there.
Yeah, I've been busy, haven't you?
So, and the beauty is it's all very, very visible just by colour, because the different sorts of environments, they're all different. So out here, you can see how grey this is. This is sort of that floodplain environment, just it's almost the natural outside of here, but sort of within that floodplain. But as we start moving on, you'll start seeing some changes. And now we're getting into something different again. I mean, this is we're right in one of the channels. This loads and loads of gravel, quite orange, quite different to the grey over there.
Yeah. Okay.
So keep that in mind because colour's going to be important. But I think this is kind of characteristic of the river kind of environment, the wet environment.
Yeah. Okay.
I've gone every 10 metres.
So you've taken them every 10 metres along, have you?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
So here it changes a little bit. It's similar, but there's a lot of gravel, and I think that we're much more into the channel of that river.
Orangey sandy, isn't it?
A bit more orangey. So we come out that channel, look, we're grey again.
Yeah.
So we're back, very similar to the other side. It's really
so you've
sandy.
got the river channel braid in that area there.
And that's what the earthwork
okay.
is, yeah.
All right. I like this. I can understand colour, Henry.
It's grey again, so yeah, we're still in that, still there.
So we're now coming into the earthwork, which is seen as there's a moat. We're in the ditch.
Well, it's marked by the edge, which is orange, and then look here, we're in the moat. It couldn't be more different. Look, it's just black.
It's very black, isn't it?
And this is incredibly peaty. It's quite sandy still, but it's peaty material. I mean, this is where water's been standing, stagnant, not flowing, for a long time.
Absolutely brilliant, that, isn't it? So how deep is that then, Henry?
That's going down to 2 metres at the base.
And in archaeological terms, we call that a moat.
And there's more progress in Trench 2.
So have you solved it?
I think we've got some answers for you, yeah. We've got something you weren't possibly expecting, which is a drainage ditch, maybe, coming in this direction.
Right.
You see that? But we're looking for your big ditch feature, and I think where we are standing at the moment, where Harry and Rachael is, I think they're right in the ditch where you were predicting.
That black soil going through the middle.
Yeah, you can see there's a yellow soil just in front of Rachael, and then it comes about, I don't know, 2 metres?
Yeah, about 2 metres, just over.
It's difficult in this light, but yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, it kind of ends up out there, and we've got the that other narrow ditch coming through, and they're kind of intersecting, but it's all a bit vague at the minute, isn't it?
It is.
But what are all the stones in the section?
Well, we've been calling that hogging, and I think that's possibly where the ditch has slumped at some point and maybe retained water, that this is the solution to that problem, and they put down bits of stone rubbling just to make a path to kind of give it a more stable platform. That's what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Works for me. Trouble is, the light is so low, so it's getting a little bit hard to spot, isn't it? So, do you reckon that's time for the day? Call it a day, come back tomorrow?
Yeah.
And it's time to wrap up digging in Trench 1.
So what have you got, Hilda?
So from this ditch, we've had an interesting variety of finds. We've got this probable whetstone for sharpening blades.
And how would we have known that this is a whetstone rather than just a stone?
So you can see some marks where it would have been used to, but basically there's wear marks. So I wasn't too convinced, but I showed it to Danny, he was pretty positive that it's a whetstone. So that's from the ditch. We've also got, which was a bit of a surprise, some Roman Samian ware. So I showed it to Rachael, she said it was 1st, 2nd century.
It seems to turn up at every single time team, doesn't it, Sophie?
Well, it's hard to miss, I suppose. It won't end up on the spoil heap. And then we've got this piece as well.
Come, Jane. Wow. What is that?
It's a ware called Potterhamworth ware, and it's made outside of Lincoln, in a village called Potterhamworth, and they're making it from the 13th to the end of the 15th century.
Amazing.
And it's tempered with fossil shell. The white bit's a fossil shell. And it's common in Newark and Nottingham.
So that's the rim, is it?
That's the rim. It would have been a bowl about this big
large
and
vessel.
probably about that deep.
And what would it have been used for, Jane?
Almost everything. Sort of your baking, or they're turned upside down sometimes to cover a fire at night. They're used for a variety of cooking, washing the baby, just about everything, that piece.
How wonderful. So this is right in the middle of our period, isn't
Yes,
it?
bang in the period,
And
yes.
this is a sort of domestic piece.
It's a domestic in the kitchen piece, yes.
With the sun over the yard arm, the team meet up on Main Street.
So end of day 2. I mean, how's it gone? How have you got on? I mean, John, in terms of that inner closure.
I'm pretty happy. A ditch that seems to go all the way around the manor. Well, we've got it in 2 trenches, and I've got a pint.
And Henry and Stewart, you went on a longer walk around what looks like a bigger enclosure.
Yeah, it's been a great day, Gus. I've been coring right across the field to the south, trying to find the actual ditches of the motor site, and I found them both and more. And what's really wonderful about it is they're both wet. They both held water. They both have organic sediment in them. So yeah, it's really good.
But that's a huge expanse of space, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that it's really illuminating what Henry's done this afternoon to show that the ditch enclosure on that side held water. It's a big area within it, and you see that going through the village as well. The boundaries going up Church Lane and up to the road up here. So we've seen a change from the smaller enclosure that John's got on the top around the manor house to suddenly, whoa, we're going to put a great big one in. It's showing us change from the early days of the occupation here right through its life to when eventually the Disneys leave. We've got a really quite grand, elaborate manorial complex.
Wow. And what are the finds like, Carenza, that are coming out?
Well, from the test bits, we've got the earlier sort of pre-Norman evidence, actually from the pub, well, obviously there's a pub there, but from this area, so that smaller enclosure, if that's pre-Norman, then we've got settlement outside it as well. We've got Norman period stuff, and then we've got some really nice little bits and pieces in the kind of heyday. We've got glass from the windows, we've got leaded window bits, we've got a lovely little buckle dating to about, well, exactly the same as ones from the Battle of Bosworth, so 1485, so kind of the heyday. And then we've got stuff from after the Disney period, if you like, into the 18th century, all up and down Main Street. We've got some real puzzles that we're still trying to get our heads around. That'll be tomorrow.
Fantastic. Richard?
Well, John wanted some dating evidence, and we've got it. We've got it. From the ditch in Trench 1, we've got 13th century pottery.
Amazing.
So absolutely perfect. But we've also got a piece of Roman pottery. So we've got some really old stuff. So yeah, really old stuff as well. But they're great. The finds have been really interesting in Trench 1, and I hope Trench 2 will be the same tomorrow.
Yeah, and I've spent ages trying to sort out this little thing, which we thought was a coin, but it had a shield on it, which was all kind of wrong. And also, it's not silver. Now, you'd expect the Disney manor to be full of silver coins, wouldn't you? Not these funny little copper alloy things. And it's actually a 17th century trading token that was issued in Newark, so a long way away. And this would have been paid in change to somebody. It was issued by a mercer, where you might have gone to buy some cloth. And this is the kind of thing that isn't used by people who have a grand manor. It isn't used by the lords of the manor. It's used by perfectly ordinary people. And it dates to the second half of the 17th century. So this is after the Disneys. It's back to normal. This is a normal village find from a normal village.
Gosh, what a lovely... I mean, this is such a rich story, and just so much in the way of the materials, the sense of that enclosure, but what still slightly puzzles me is, where is my medieval moated manor house? I mean, that's what, in the first morning, that was the question that I kind of asked, and I just wondered tomorrow.
We're doing lots of test bits in the garden of the manor house, so we might have some clues from that, but Richard?
I think that's going to be the best bet. I think it's going to be very close to where the current house is.
Okay. Well, tomorrow, hopefully.
Big day.
Fantastic.
Join Time Team on Patreon to access exclusive 3D models, masterclasses, and behind-the-scenes insights.